All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory be unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakah Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well. And peace, salutations, and blessings be unto the hopeful elect, pushing his truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the globe, in the sincere hopes of being delivered in these last days. All right, this is the brother Yakanan from the GMS England branch. And, this is going to be an in-transit video. As always, Lord willing, it'll be edifying unto you brothers out there and few sisters listening and also learning. Now, in this lesson, I want to speak upon the hostile, takeover that is going to commence, concerning the downfall of the kingdom of Esau Edom, all right? Because we are currently living in a time of a transition, of kingdoms, all right? As it tells us in, Sirach, chapter 10 and verse 8, if I'm not mistaken, it tells us how, due to injuries and, riches, got by deceit, roughly paraphrasing, the kingdom is translated from one people to another, all right? And it also tells us in 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 9, it also mentions how Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, okay? So right now, in these last days, we're experiencing, a transition period of rulership, of kingdoms, okay? From Esau, Edom, all right, the wicked, who represent the left-hand side, to the right-hand side, which is, the Israelites, Unigos, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, beginning with the elect, okay? The kingdom, of Yahweh Shai. We're phasing into the kingdom of Yahweh Shai in these last days. And this is why we're experiencing all of these things in these last days. This is why things are getting more bitter. All right. This is why trials and tribulations are becoming more immense. This is why, the nations are at odds. This is why, we're experiencing wars and rumors of wars in these last days. All right. Because these prophecies are about to be fulfilled in these last days. All right. That's going to cement the downfall of Esau Edom. This is why all of these things are happening, man. Because we're living in a time of a transition of rulership, a transition of power. Okay? This is what it feels like to experience a transition of rulership upon the earth. It's not going to be sweet. Like I said, it's going to be a hostile takeover in these last days. As it says in the book of Daniel, the saints of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai shall take the kingdom. Okay? We're not going to run for office, all right, to get into the power seat. All right, we're not going to do press conferences and, interviews here and there and try to sway the minds of the people to vote for us. This ain't going to be a two-party voting system thing. We are going to take the kingdom, all right, from the current occupiers of the throne, so to speak, who is Esau Edom. Okay, and that's going to be done through the force and through the power of Yahweh Shai upon his coming. Okay, that's why the scriptures tell us how, Yahweh Shai had many crowns upon his head, because he's going to take all authority from the leaders of this world, all right? And he's going to take over. We're going to do it through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, man. That's how this kingdom is going to be thrown down, through Yahweh Shai, all right? The only begotten son of Yahweh, okay? And again, this is why we're experiencing what we're experiencing in these last days, all right? That's why, things are becoming so bitter upon the earth. That's why things are becoming harder. All right. That's why the quality of life, is waning. Okay. Because we're in the time of the downfall of the kingdom of Esau Edom. Okay. So things are going to continue to worsen in these last days. Things are going to continue to be more bitter and to be more volatile, as we come in, to the close of this man's kingdom. Okay. But it's a good thing for us. And we welcome, these trials and tribulations, and we welcome and we welcome, all right, the necessary evils that comes with the downfall of this man's kingdom. Okay, because there's light at the end of the tunnel, and we have hope. We're not hopeless. We have hope. We have faith in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. We have faith and hope that we're going to be guided and looked after in these last days. All right, so we're not a hopeless people. All right, we have hope and we have faith in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, that no matter how hard and how challenging, all right, and how, uncomfortable things are going to get in these last days, all right, we have hope that the Lord is always going to find a way for us to escape, as it tells us in the scriptures, man. And if you don't have hope and you don't have faith in that, then you might as well just, throw in the towel now, man. All right? If you don't have hope and faith in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai and his saving power, the scriptures tell us that, the Lord's hand is not short that it can't save. Roughly paraphrasing. So if you don't have faith in that, you might as well throw in the towel now. You might as well bow out now, man. Okay? Because, hey, we're about to be pushed to the limit. All right? We're about to be pushed to the limit, man. In these last days, your faith is going to be tested. Your ability to endure is about to be tested to the ultimate level. Okay? To the point where, you could experience, long periods without food. You could experience, long periods of, what it seemeth to be, stagnation. Like, what's going to happen next? Has the Lord got me? You remember the scriptures say, that the righteous shall scarcely be saved, man. So you might have, your moments of doubt. You might have, the demon of doubt, rather, because, that's a demon. All right, but we got to rebuke that in the name of Yahweh, why Yahweh Shai. We got to rebuke those thoughts and comfort ourselves, with the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Comfort ourselves with the words of the book. That's what it's there for. So when you have those, moments of doubt, or moments of, am I going to make it? Is the Lord dealing with me? And you got to combat that with what it says in the scriptures, man. All right? Because if you've been a faithful servant, all right, and to the best of your ability, you utilize the spirit, that's been poured out, upon you, and you've gone out there on the highways and the byways and you made your calling and election sure, then what's going to happen? All right? You can expect to be delivered in these last days, man. All right? Now, of course, we call ourselves humbly, the hopeful elect, because we don't know for sure, all right, that we're going to make it until we're actually on that chariot, man. Okay? Until we receive that salvation. But then, you got to live your life like you are of the elect. You got to do things like you are of the elect. All right? You got to put on like you actually are of the elect. And you expect to be delivered in these last days, man. Okay? The scriptures tell us that, the righteous are as bold as a lion. All right? You got to have that, unwavering, stability, in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. The scriptures say that the elect stood stiffly for the name of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. We got to be, immovable in the way that we go about serving Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Okay? What outcome do you expect? Do you expect not to make it? Or do you expect, to be delivered in these last days? All right? That's the spirit that we got to be in, man. All right? Because the spirit of doubt, is just that. It's a spirit of doubt. It's a demon. So we got to rebuke that, anytime that creeps in. And it does creep in, man. Of course it creeps in because we're in the flesh. All right? And the flesh is subject to be fucked with. All right? So we got to rebuke that in the name of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Okay? As the scriptures tell us, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. All right? The flesh is weak, man. So we're constantly, trying to, to the best of our ability, we're constantly taming, the flesh, that we occupy until we fully, are changed in these last days. In a twinkling of an eye, as the scriptures tell us, we shall be changed. But until then, it's a constant battle between the flesh and the spirit. And the demonic thoughts, that can come into your mind, man. So we constantly battle, and tame, the flesh through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Okay? That's why, at every chance we get, you got to fuel yourself, with these words, man. You got to fuel yourself, with the scriptures. All right? The scriptures say, blessed is he that readeth. Blessed is he that readeth, man. Keep topping yourself up. Like how you have to top up your car, to keep it running. You go to the, petrol station, gas station, you fill up your car, you replenish it, with that oil. Well, it's the same, on a spiritual level, you have to read. All right? You have to, meditate upon the scriptures. You have to meditate upon Yahweh Shai. You have to keep yourself in the zone. Keep yourself in the spirit. Okay? Keep changing your oil. You got a car, you got to change the oil. Every now and again, you got to change that oil. Put fresh oil inside, man. Okay? We've got it. All right? We are not the foolish virgins, man. All right? We are of the wise, Lord willing. So we keep that oil pure, all right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, man. But that's what's happening in these last days, man. Things are becoming more intense. All right? Things are going to become more bitter. And it's going to become harder and harder to, because the scripture says, using the world and not abusing it, man. Well, that cutoff point is coming. That point is coming where, they're going to make mandatory that chip, all right, that MOTB, and then, hey, the elect are going to be completely cut off from society, all right? And that's prophetic because the scriptures tell us that, the elect shall have victory over the beast, over the image, and over the mark, all right? So the elect are not going to be subject to taking the MOTB. So the Lord is going to make a way for his elect, all right, to sustain themselves in these last days. As the scriptures say, my servants shall eat, but ye shall go hungry. Okay? So the elect are going to eat in these last days. So somehow, some way, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai is going to provide and he's going to sustain his elect men and women, all right, and children in these last days, man. Okay? So get ready for the miracles. Get ready for miraculous events to present themselves in these last days, man. Okay? So with that, Lord willing, this lesson has been edifying. And until next time, I'll say shalom.